Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Football Fignuts Podcast. This is Season 4, Episode 29. If you counted every single episode, that's 179 episodes of entertainment and football stuffs and beer. I'm Craig.
I am Britt.
And Britt, we're back, and your Chiefs won.
You know, so let me just get this off the chest now before we even get to starting this.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a doubt in that game? I mean, even when they were down 9-0, I didn't.
Not really. I mean, I knew the Bills were going to score, but I didn't think the Bills were going to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. When I was down 9-0, I was like, okay, this kind of sucks, but this isn't like I didn't feel like any point like it was out of control. Okay, so they got an opening drive field goal, and then Hardman muffed a punt, which I want to talk about. But other than that, okay, big deal. You know what I mean? I just kind of felt like it's fine. Everything's fine. And then of course it just steamrolls. But you know what? Before I get into that, before I even go that direction, let's start where we always start. Craig, what are you drinking?
So I'm drinking a beer that I've been saving. So as you remember when I found some Treehouse beers?
Yar.
One of the beers that I got in my bag was called Snow. So I purposely waited for it to snow.
You know what? I think I still have that in my fridge for the exact same reason. I forgot it was there.
This is a wheat double IPA. It is 7.8%. And the quick description is a palate rich with tropical fruit, citrus, mango characteristics with a bready finish. I don't know if I've ever heard that before.
Bready finish. There are beers that are made with literal bread. Have you ever heard of a Kriek? Kriek?
Bush. No.
Bush. It's a beer that's literally fermented by soaking in rye bread. Like you chuck rye bread into I'm not exactly sure how the process works, but it involves literal rye bread in the casks, and it's a very unique beer, very mild. It's European. You remember my friend Donna, the one who came and drank with us that time at Two Roads?
Oh yeah.
That night that Santa Claus was all over us and we didn't realize it was Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
That she was the one who brought it. She brought it to one of our gaming events, and she was like, "You need to try this. It's really unique. It's hard to find." So we did. Christy and her finished off a gigantic sized craft bottle. I had like 2 sips of that beer. The two of them were down in it. They loved it so much.
Really? Did it taste like rye bread?
You know, a little bit. It was, but you know what? The reason I bring it up is because the word I would use to describe it is bready.
Huh. All right.
I would use that word. So when you sit there and say bready to me, that's the first thing I think. I'm like, yeah, I actually understand what that means in a beer. So before he tries it, I am drinking because, bottom line, folks, and this is first confession of the night, I have done 0 prep work today. All hell broke loose at work today. And by the time I got done with work, I needed to close my eyes and not think about anything. So I'm going in blind tonight. I mean, there's a ton for us to discuss, but I have done very little actual upfront research. And to that end, I needed a comfort beer. So when I need a comfort beer, I look at my fridge and I go, what do I have that just makes me relax? And to that end, I pulled out one of the 7 bottles of holiday ale that I saved from this Christmas.
Nice.
And I just opened one. So I'm drinking some holiday ale by Two Roads.
Excellent.
Craig, tell us about the Snow.
So the Snow is very orangey in color. You cannot see through it at all. Although can't see your hand on the other side of the glass. The smell, you know what? It actually does smell a little bit like bread, which is kind of weird. I don't really get any citrus off the nose of it, but let's take a sip.
But you know, that dank kind of non-see-through-y is pretty indicative of how Treehouse brews. So,
very smooth. It's thick. It almost feels like there would be lactose in this, but there isn't. Mm-hmm. So it has a heavy mouthfeel, and the citrus, it is tropical in nature, but I'm not sure actually what this is. Maybe a little bit mango, but not overpowering.
Mm-hmm.
But easy to drink.
Okay, good. All right, let's get into burning hot takes. We got so much to talk about tonight. You want to give or receive?
You know what? Your Chiefs won, so I'll receive.
All right, so let's start there. Let's start with the Chiefs-Bills game, as we talked about just briefly. The Chiefs do defeat the Bills. The Brills. I have just sipped my beer, folks. I don't even have the scores up in front of me. I don't want to know what the Pro Bowl was.
Oh, they're doing it. They're playing Madden.
Yeah, I saw that too. Don't get me started on that. So 38-24. This game was never as close as the score anticipated, or as the score really reflected. I didn't think at any point was it close. So I want to talk about the Mecole Hardman fumble, the muffed punt.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, you saw him, if you watched that game, walk to the sideline, kind of just chuck his helmet, not in anger, but just kind of like, oh, crap, and then put his jacket over his head.
Yes.
What you didn't see was a moment later, Patrick Mahomes walk over to him. The cameras didn't pick it up, but some NFL audio supposedly did. And the quote he said to him was, "Hey, look at me. Look at me. Hey, we're good. Be you. You're going to make a play in this game." And then he walked away. Craig, my question for you. I mean, aside from like running into a burning pet shop to save animals, is there anything Patrick Mahomes could do to be a better person at this point? I mean, like the guy, like every time he turns around, he's doing the right things.
He is. That shows his maturity as a quarterback. He knows essentially he is the leader of that team. Yeah. And he showed it. Like there's other quarterbacks that get mad at players. Brady, who, scream at people, and, sometimes screaming at someone is effective, but it's not always very effective.
See, I feel like Mahomes is a more centered version of Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? I mean, Mahomes will give you a death look.
Yeah.
And if seriously, they have such set kind of like things. Like 7 or 8 times this year, I've watched the Chiefs, and Mahomes has thrown an incomplete pass, and they'll center in on his face, and you'll see him point or look right at the receiver and say the words, you could read the lips, "Come back to the ball." And you know that that's the way that they plan this. Like if you take this many steps and you're still covered, stop and come back to the ball. Or you see me scramble, come back towards. He does, but he communicates that. Aaron Rodgers shoots you a look like, "I hate you and I wish your family was dead," and then goes on to the next play, and then maybe never throws to you ever again. That's a whole nother thing. But you brought up a good point about the maturity, because the flip side of this is Josh Allen at the end of the game, where he basically started a fight that resulted in multiple penalties.
Yeah.
Because he got sacked. The audacity of being sacked caused him to flip the ball in the face of Okafor, and that just set off a chain of events.
Yeah.
That is, and I was so angry. Craig knows I was screaming on the podcast, and I was also a few beers in at that point, but I was screaming on the podcasters thread. And my biggest problem with that play was there were 4 personal fouls on the play, 3 on the Bills and 1 on the Chiefs, and yet it was all offsetting. You're telling me that robbing 3 banks is the same punishment-wise as robbing a bank?
I mean, I think it depends on how much you steal from the 3 and the 1. Is it the same amount of money?
I guess. I mean, Okafor did react. I mean, there's no question it was an appropriate penalty, but how does a Bill taunting a Chief, the Chief reacting, and then 2 additional Bills attacking that Chief? Let's just do this right now really quick. The officiating this weekend was terrible.
Oh, it was horrible. It was god awful.
Chris Jones in the first quarter of that Bills Chiefs game, a Chief player, literally punched the side of the helmet of one of the Bills after the play was over, and he looked over his shoulder to see if anyone was watching before he did it, and nobody caught it. The cameras caught it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can't do that." And I'm like, that should be a personal foul.
That's 15 yards and a possible ejection.
It should have been 15 yards, and at least that whole, this is your first penalty towards ejection. At a minimum, never called.
No.
Never called. And I'm a Chiefs fan, and I'm calling him out on it. He's a hothead.
At least no one threw their socks. Let's put it that way.
No one threw their socks, and Travis Kelce was involved in none of it. Those are the silver linings.
Yeah, he was actually trying to calm Hardman down, of all people.
Yes.
Except he did say, I heard the audio, he did say that's what you do, because after Hardman made those 2 plays and got that touchdown, Kelce was like, that's what you do to adversity. You punch it in the face. So it wound up back being violent, but it was in a good way.
Yeah, Travis is something special. A frequently uttered phrase in my house is just fall down, Travis. Fall down, Travis. Travis Kelce has developed this desire to catch every ball, do a spin move, and get another 20 yards. And half the time he does a spin move and loses 2 yards by doing it because he's got to kind of move backwards away from the defender. And there's another guy standing right there because he's still Travis Kelce, and they're not stupid. There's a safety or somebody there who's had time to react, and he still gets hit. So there's time, or he'll be sitting there and they'll have his legs wrapped up and he's hopping, and I'm like, no, just fall over, Travis. You are a sitting duck for a concussion.
You hit that juke button too much, you fumble.
That's it. Just fall over, Travis. Particularly, the worst part is when he'll get like it's 2nd and 10. He catches the ball for an 11-yard gain and he starts struggling. No. Fall over. You have the first down. This team is built to get small chunks of yards and build up to the big play. That's what they do. You do not need to break a tackle and go for 28 yards. Fall over. You have the first down.
Yeah, that's all that matters. You just need 10 yards. You don't need 89 yards on one play.
Taking up 10 minutes with my stupid question about Patrick Mahomes' leadership.
That's fine.
Go ahead. What do you got for me?
So for me, on the flip side, the other game that happened that day also has to do with the refs. Now, you know what? It's the NFC. I'm an AFC fan. I really had no horse in the race. Really not a huge Tom Brady fan, as everybody knows. So this isn't not an anti-Tom Brady thing.
Sure it is.
No, because maybe he maybe paid off the refs. But anyway, so here's the thing.
Don't say things like that. We're going to get sued.
That's all over the internet. It's a meme, for God's sakes. Anyway.
So is QAnon. We're not going there.
All right. Well, he did try to high-five the referee. That was a little weird. But
he's done that before, too. He's got a weird... He's flaunted, for lack of a better term, his relationship with the officials before. So, I can understand.
But my thing is that entire game for 3.5 quarters, on both sides of the ball, there were clearly penalties not called.
Oh, my God. So bad.
Whether it was holding... Whether it was defensive or offensive holding, holding, pass interference, and literally both sides of the ball. Both teams did it. Both teams did not get called for it.
Mm-hmm.
Then under 2 minutes left in the game, referees decide to then call a late flag for pass interference. And my issue was, why wasn't the other 8 calls made, but that one was? That was my biggest issue with that game. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
I'm absolutely with you on that. So the entire game, all we kept hearing from the announcers, they're letting them play. They're letting them play. We saw constant replays, right, of things. I'm like, that's defensive holding. Oh, they're letting them play. Okay. Then you can't call that late in the game. You can't. That's. I'm with you. I'm very much with you on this. You cannot call that based on what has happened in the game already. And that's the thing. Davante Adams was terrible. And part of Davante Adams' terribleness was he didn't get any calls when he was held, and he was held frequently. But once Tampa Bay saw that they're not going to call anything that's not egregious, they did it every play.
Yeah.
And thusly they held him in check. So the NFL, and this is what I put on Twitter, the NFL should be embarrassed by its officiating this weekend. Embarrassed.
Yeah, it was just not, it wasn't consistent. That's the problem. If you're going to call pass interference, do it in the first quarter so everyone knows. It's like, you were an umpire. If you decide this zone right here all day is a strike, and then in the 8th inning or 9th inning, you're like, nah, it's a ball now. You know what? The pitcher's going to be really pissed at you.
Yep. So let me tell you a quick story about my very first game as a softball umpire. And by the way, Cinch was an umpire too, but in baseball. And he actually did higher level games. He actually did competitive games. I don't know what. I know he definitely did some college and did some high school games. So Cinch is good, and that was the thing. Cinch was like, "You're an umpire, you know something." And I'm like, "You're an umpire, you know consistency is what matters." My very first game as a softball umpire, my strike zone was massive, massive, because the book tells you that the average slow pitch softball pitch can land within like 3 to 4 feet behind the plate and have passed through the strike zone because of the angle of descent.
Okay.
So I'm calling strikes left and right. I am the most pitcher-friendly umpire in the history of softball. The guy I'm calling with is the head official for our league, and he intentionally scheduled himself with me because he wanted to see how I would do.
Okay.
Halfway through the game, one of the guys walks up to him, knowing he's a seasoned umpire, and goes, "Are you going to say anything to your partner? He's calling everything a strike." And he looked at him and he said, and I found all this about after the game. He looked at him and said, "But is he being consistent?" And the player said, "Well, yeah, because everything that gets anywhere near the plate is a strike." And he goes, "As long as he's being consistent, the strike zone is his." And the player nodded. That same player comes up an inning later, stands all the way back next to me when he sets up in the box.
Mm-hmm.
And the catcher looks at me and goes, "Isn't he outside the batter's box?" And I'm like, "No, as long as he's still within a foot of the strike zone, legally he's but." And the catcher was like, "Okay." And the catcher moved off away from the batter. Like, I don't want to get hit when this guy swings. Next pitch that comes in is one that's going to be deep. It's going to be a little deeper. He knows I'm going to call a strike. He cranks it over the fence. And when he hits home plate, he flashes a smile and winks at me like, "I follow you now."
Nice.
And then after the game, the other umpire was like, "Listen, you probably want to shorten your strike zone a little bit, but you were consistent, and that's what matters." Consistency in officiating is what matters. Interpretation of the rules is going to be a part of every game's officiating. End of story. Does not make a difference what sport we're talking about. Anytime a human being is in charge of making a call, that human being's subjective perception is going to be a part of it. I could spend an entire episode preaching about perception and sensation in terms of human experience. I have PowerPoint presentations from my college years about how the human eye works. The bottom line is it's going to be subjectively interpreted, applied to an objective set of rules, and a ruling's going to be made. In a perfect world, every single person sees every pitch, every throw, every kick, all of it the same way. That's not how we work.
Right.
We are subjective beings working with objective sets of rules. But that objective set of rules needs to be consistent. And that was the problem with this game, was they were consistent for like 50 minutes.
Because I remember one of the announcers, and I think it was like in the third quarter, they said there's been no penalties this game. And I was like, wow, there hasn't been. But damn.
I think it was the third quarter. And I think you're right. It was just Troy Aikman was like, "I just realized there's been no penalties in this game at all."
No. And really quick though, I'm not blaming the refs for Green Bay losing, because Green Bay clearly had opportunities to score.
Oh, tons of them.
You know, Adams dropped 2 passes, like one he really should have caught on the end zone. The other one was a little out. But you know, they got two interceptions, or actually 3 interceptions from Brady. You know, they didn't do anything with 2 of them. And then they decided to go for that kick, you know, meh. And Aaron Rodgers could have ran for a touchdown on 3rd down. So, yeah, the Packers had opportunity to score, and they didn't. So I'm not blaming the refs for them losing. I'm blaming the refs because that, in my mind, that call was stupid. Like,
can we break down the possessions really quick?
Yeah.
On the second half of that game.
Sure.
Green Bay fumbles on the first possession, which leads to a 4-second, 1-play touchdown by Tampa. Okay. Green Bay then responds with a touchdown. By that point, it's 28-17. Brady throws a pick. Green Bay gets a touchdown. Brady throws a pick. It's 28-23, by the way, at that point. Brady throws a pick. They're down 5. They go 3 and out. They punt. Brady throws a pick. They go 3 and out, and they punt. Tampa kicks a field goal, then the controversial Green Bay field goal. They had 3 turnovers. They were +2 because they fumbled, but they got 3 interceptions. They were +2 in turnover differential in the second half of that game. In the second half, they went into halftime at 21-10. They were down 11 points, and they still lost by 5. So I don't want to hear – and you're absolutely right. They were daring Aaron Rodgers to run in that fourth quarter. Daring him. I do not understand why he did not, other than he thinks he's Aaron Rodgers and he can make anything happen.
There was no one between him and the end zone on that third down.
No, but he didn't want to take a hit. He would have had to take a hit or gone airborne to get in, but he would have gotten in. He did not want to take a hit. So you know what? I'm going to make a bold statement right now. Since she's going to be very happy. I'm on board with the Aaron Rodgers is overrated train. Aaron Rodgers is an overrated prima donna. You chased your coach out of town. You got the coach you wanted, the coach you dictate to, and you still couldn't get it done. I am done hearing about how good Aaron Rodgers is. And then when he comes out and he's like, well, I don't know what the future will hold. You don't get to dictate. You know who gets to dictate what the future holds? Winners. You did not win. If they replace you with, what's his name? Love, right? Is who they drafted?
Yes.
If they say tomorrow we'd rather go 3-13 for 2 years and build something around this new guy, then you can go do squat. Now, he backed off of that, and he was like, no, I fully expect to be back next year. I'm sure you do. There's also rumors that he wants to renegotiate his contract.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
He's got 2 more years left on it, I think.
Good luck with that. If I were the owner, my answer would be, you know what? Let's talk after you win the Super Bowl next week. Oh, wait, you're not? We'll talk after you win a Super Bowl. He has 1 Super Bowl win. 1.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any more about how good Aaron Rodgers is. In the clutch,
do you know what it was?
choked.
The problem with the Packers is their defense. Their defense, I think, on average, gave up like 34 points.
That year that they won with him, they
were in the top
really
10,
good.
I think.
Yeah. But you know what? Part of that's his problem too, because he's dictating to the organization, give me weapons, give me weapons, give me weapons. I need Devontae Adams. I need a decent running back. Go draft Aaron Jones. I need a decent tight end. Go get me. Wasn't what's his name there? Who's the tight end there that fizzled out like 2 years ago? Jimmy. Jimmy Graham. They went out and they signed Jimmy Graham as a free agent. Did they do that because they really thought they needed a tight end? No, they did that because freaking Aaron Rodgers told them to do it. Well, how do you know that? I don't. I'm not stupid. It's obvious that they were. He was like, get me weapons. I don't have inside information, but
and that
so I'm done. I'm done with Rodgers.
I knew when their left tackle got hurt, I knew that was going to be a huge. From being a Bengal fan, I knew that was going to be a huge issue.
And not only was that a huge issue play-wise, but Bakhtiari was the only lineman that Rodgers trusted. And trust is a huge thing for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Do you know how many? So I can count on one hand the Packers that Aaron Rodgers trusts in a game. I need my fingers and toes to do the same thing for Patrick Mahomes. And that's why Patrick Mahomes is playing in the Super Bowl. He's not. Byron freaking Pringle catches passes for this team.
On a regular basis.
He's the 5th receiver.
Yes.
Explain that to me. Hold on, I'm pulling up Byron.
Is he listed as a tight end?
Who, Pringle?
Yeah.
No, he's listed as a wideout. Pringle in the game last week, 5 targets, 3 catches for 22 yards. He was the 3rd best receiver on the team in terms of yardage.
That's kind of crazy.
3rd best receiver. And the only reason he's 3rd is because Kelsey and Hill went off. He had more yardage than Hardman, but Hardman had the touchdown. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But Byron Pringle is getting 5 targets. And yes, I used him in a pool. And yes, I'm like, we're going to be rich if Byron Pringle catches 5 targets and he dropped 2 of them. You're killing me, Byron. But can you say the same? All right, so Mahomes trusts Hardman, obviously. He trusts Hilaire. He trusts Darrell Williams. He trusts Tyreek Hill. He trusts Travis Kelce. He trusts Byron Pringle. That's 6 guys. Can you even name 6 people who catch the ball for the Packers?
Adams, Tunyon, Lazard, and the law office.
That's 4. That's
Can't
4.
name anyone else.
That's 4. And one Adams. Did we say Adams?
Yeah, I think I said Devontae.
But Mercedes Lewis had 3 catches in this game.
He did?
Yes. I mean, come on. It drives me nuts just because I'm tired of hearing about how great the Green Bay Packers are and how great Aaron Rodgers is. He doesn't win. He doesn't win the big game.
If you look at his stats for his year, he had an amazing year. He had like 45 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
And the problem with him not winning the big game is that he's not humble about it. He makes demands. He chased his coach out of town. Think about great quarterbacks that just never won the big game or won or got to like.
Philip Rivers.
About guys. Philip Rivers never even made an AFC championship. I can't put him in this conversation. But what about Jim Kelly?
Yeah.
Teammates raved about what a great guy he was and how much they loved him.
4 Super Bowls.
4 Super Bowls, never won one. Okay, it happens. But I got to hold him in better regard than Rodgers because of how he handles it. It's about how you handle it. We've wasted 30 minutes.
Can I just say really quick for the next question is
yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts. He looks like Ric Flair.
I always thought he looked like Chris Benoit.
Like the picture I see him right now, he looks like Ric Flair.
Is he talking about whorehouses in Asia?
He might be. I don't know. That's for a different podcast.
Yeah. All right. Really quick. Third question. The podcast is half over. And we're still bitching about last week's games. We haven't even talked about the Super Bowl yet.
And prop bets.
Oh, prop bets we'll do next week. Prop bets we will do next week. Definitely do prop bets next week. Because I like getting a good, solid list of them. But yes, we will do our prop bets extravaganza next week. So my last question for you is, I just found an article on NFL.com by Maurice Jones-Drew.
He used to be a running back.
And he says, there's an X factor to the Bucs' success in Super Bowl 55.
Okay.
I have to always do that in my head because I'm like, LV, that's 50 plus 555. I'm going to do that really quick in my head. The X factor is not Tom Brady. The X factor is not Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, or Chris Godwin. The X factor is Leonard Fournette. In 3 playoff games, he has amassed 313 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns. They need him to be efficient throughout, according to Drew. Craig, is the secret to beating the Chiefs Leonard Fournette being successful?
No. If the Buccaneers want to win, they have to stop the Chiefs' offense. It doesn't matter what Leonard Fournette does.
That's exactly it.
Everyone can rush for 150 yards against the Chiefs. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they're going to score. They're going to score 45 points. So what is your 150 yards going to do? Because if you get behind, you're going to stop running.
Yep, that's exactly it. Don't forget, the Chiefs gave up 24 points to the Bills and still won. And it wasn't close. I understand.
It really
I understand.
Wasn't. The Bills are like 2 or 3 years off from where I think where they're going. But yeah, no.
Did you see the report, by the way, that Stephon Diggs wouldn't leave the field?
Oh, I watched it.
Did you watch that video?
Yep, he just stood there.
For those who have no idea what we're talking about, so they set up in like one of the end zones, probably around the 20-yard line. They set up the stage to give out the trophy. Someone caught the far end of the field, like 80 yards away, Stephon Diggs standing at the other 20-yard line with his helmet on and his hands on his hips, just watching. Not in like a defiant or angry pose, but just watching. That's the kind of fire I want to see. I don't want to see balls thrown in players' faces. I want to see that. And that tells me if Josh Allen can continue to progress, if Devin Singletary can continue to do good things, Zach Moss can continue to progress, this team could be the AFC champion in, say, 2022.
Yeah, no,
after
I totally agree.
I'm saying 2023. I'm saying the 2022 season.
Right.
I think they're like 2 years away.
Yes.
I think they're like 2 years away. And you know what? I look at this team and I see a lot of what I saw in the Chiefs 2 years ago when they lost at home in the AFC Championship game, which If you don't know, Patrick Mahomes don't talk about. He talked about it once on NFL radio right after the game in 2019, and all he would say about it was, it's motivation. It was a tough game to watch from home. Yep. And the next year he's in the Super Bowl, and then now this year, the year after, he's in the Super Bowl again. Mm-hmm. If they can take this in as motivation, it's huge.
Yeah, no. If I was a Bills fan, I would be disappointed they lost, but I wouldn't be worried about anything. I think this team is finally headed in the right direction again. It's been a long time, so.
Yeah. And let's be brutally honest. They play in what is suddenly a weak division.
Yes.
There is no reason they can't win with the talent they already have. And knowing that the draft is still yet to happen and everything can change, there is no reason they can't win 10 games easily playing in the AFC East and win that division easily. Who is going to stop them?
Yeah, no. I think Miami is I don't know, I feel like they're on really thin ice because it seems like they have potential, but now, looking at it after the season, I don't know what they're going to do with Tua.
You know what the problem with Miami Dolphins is? They don't have any patience, and they don't have the tools to develop their players. They drafted Tua and thought they were going to – I'll go back to this. This is a terrible reference, but I'll use it anyway. And Craig Ellison goes, oh, God. Do you remember there was an old Family Guy episode where Peter talks about having to take a test, a math test, and during the test he actually picks up what appears to be a small child and puts it on the corner of a desk and pokes it with a pencil and goes, do math. Do math. That is essentially what the Dolphins thought they were going to do. They were going to plug Tua in and go, all right, go win us a title. And Tua's going to go, okay.
I mean,
that's not how it works.
Tried, but no.
The development isn't there. These guys you don't hatch out of an egg and all of a sudden be an NFL quarterback. It takes development. Never forget, Patrick Mahomes sat his rookie year. He started one game, and he started that game because they gave Alex Smith the week off to rest him for the playoffs.
That's right.
But people forget that. And so you put Tua out there, what was it, week 6 or 7-ish?
Yeah, and they actually came off a win, too, and they were just like, yeah, we're going to bench Fitzpatrick and start Tua.
Which says to me that was the plan the entire time. Doesn't make a difference what we do. This is where we're going to start Tua. But you put him out there, and then all of a sudden you expect him to take you to the playoffs.
Yeah, that doesn't really happen.
It doesn't. It's very rare. How many rookie quarterbacks play in the Super Bowl? Because I can only think of one, and that's Dan Marino.
Yeah, and that was his only Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm sure there are others.
That's the thing with the NFL. Like, no one is patient. Like, I'm still for... If you draft a quarterback, let him sit, like, the first year.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge learning curve to go from college to the NFL. And you just throw... I mean, yeah, they can do it, clearly, because they've been playing football their entire life. But, I don't know, there's just something about... I just feel like there's something about having at least 1 year to adjust, Yeah.
Never forget, Peyton Manning set the record for most yardage by a rookie in his first year, 3,739. Most touchdowns by a rookie with 26. And most interceptions with 28.
I think, what is his first game? He had like 5 interceptions or 4 interceptions.
I don't have it right in front.
It was bad. Like, his first few weeks were bad.
All right, there we go. 1998 was his rookie year.
Dear God, 1998.
He led the league in pass attempts.
Wow.
In his rookie year. Well, I can throw for 3,000 yards, too, if I throw the ball more than anybody else.
That's true.
He threw 28 interceptions.
No.
His interception percentage was 4.9%. That's 1 out of every 20 passes, folks.
Wow.
Every 20th attempt. So if he's I don't even know what he's throwing per game. But I'm just saying, like, 1 out of every 20, that is brutally bad. They threw him in. Oh, you're a talent. You can do this. Okay.
Okay, but later, the first year is going to be bad.
2 years later, in 2000, age 24, he starts 16 games. They go 10-6. He leads the leagues in completions, yards, and touchdowns.
Yep.
2 years later. He never gets anywhere near 28. His second worst year in terms of interceptions is 2001. He throws 23. Twice in his career, he threw more than 20. That's it. Those are the only 2 times. That's it. What does that tell you?
That the Colts were really patient?
But the Colts threw him to the Wolves.
They did.
But they expected it. You don't throw Tua out there and expect him to have success. You can't. It doesn't work that way.
It's really funny that the Buccaneers got rid of Jameis Winston because he threw a lot of interceptions. And so, Tom Brady threw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's like what Jameis Winston did all the time.
But he got them to the Super Bowl.
He did.
And that's the difference, is that they brought in the guy who could win them the game, and that's the thing. So, all right, so let's move on from that. We only spent 35 minutes on burning hot takes. This is what happens when Britt has a rough day at work. My beer is empty. I'm out of beer. This is terribly sad. That's okay. Let's talk about that just really quick. What are your first thoughts on Super Bowl 55? We've got more than so next week will be our Super Bowl spectacular, right? Mm-hmm. But what are your first thoughts on this when you see the matchup Bucks and Chiefs? What pops into your head?
It's going to be a really high scoring game. I feel like.
I think so.
I think the Chiefs are going to win. I just feel it's going to be, definitely take the over in the Super Bowl.
I'm looking it up right now. It's 57.5.
Yeah, I would take that over.
You would still take the over at 57.5?
I would.
I don't know, man.
I would.
I don't know. That's and they're 3.5 point favorites. I'm doing the math in my head. 27. That's 30-27 roughly.
Yeah, I can see that.
Actually, now that you mention it, I think I can too.
I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I don't think the Buccaneers clearly have a good defense, but I don't think they can keep up with the Chiefs.
The question is how long before Ndamukong Suh commits a massive penalty and ends up getting into a fist fight with Travis Kelce. That's the question I want.
Before halftime. We can make that a prop bet.
I want helmets off, and I want what was his name, Mills Lane, to come out, the old boxing referee. Let's get all. I want that to happen. And you know what? That fight should be worth 6 points. There was a game back in the day for the Sega Genesis, Mario Lemieux's Hockey.
Oh yes.
Did you ever play that one?
Yes, I remember that.
If a fight broke out, only the guy who lost the fight got a penalty. So there was all this impetus on winning the fight, and the fight was like a side game inside the game. Like the two of them would square up to each other. You'd have to punch and kick and fight. And it was like brutal because it meant a 5-minute major, but only for the guy who lost. That's what I want to see here. I want to see a fight, and I want to see – well, I really don't want to see a fight. But if a fight breaks out, I want to see points. I want to see 3 points awarded or 6 points awarded to whoever wins the fight. But if the line holds at 57.5, it would be the highest – over-under close in Super Bowl history. They've had lines open higher than that, but they've never had lines close that high. So,
did you know Todd Bowles is the defensive coordinator for Tampa?
Yes. Yeah, he does a great job. He's a great coordinator. He's one of those guys.
Then he coached the Jets. Not so good. But he's not
a great head coach, but he's a great coordinator.
No, that's the thing. You can't. It's a hard job to transition to, and not everyone can be a head coach. Totally different job.
ESPN breaking news. Oh, it's not going to load now. I hate their app.
Now we'll never know.
Chad Wheeler was formally charged.
Yes, he is no longer a Seahawk, and he is going into therapy.
Yeah, so let's transition there because we're going to talk a lot about the Super Bowl next week, and we've only got a few minutes left. I work in the mental health field. I have my entire career. I'm an administrator in an organization that provides some services, different services to folks, and I've worked with folks who have had manic episodes. They're nasty. They are very, very nasty. For those who have never seen or experienced what they entail, they can be violent. They can be violent. Manic episodes, every decision you make, think about the craziest decision you had on a night when you were too tired or had a few drinks, the craziest decision, and then imagine you stopped everything you were doing and did it without any regard for the consequences. That's as close to an example of what I can give you for folks who experience manic episodes. I have known people who have literally got up at 10 o'clock out of bed, thrown on their clothes, sold personal possessions, and just bought a plane ticket to Hawaii. And
just
they get
randomly.
get off the plane in Hawaii and then go, okay, what's next? No hotel, no way home, no money. It is your thought process is completely in the moment, and it's completely self-serving. So if this guy is truly suffering from a manic episode, I want to see him get some help. I do believe it's a good idea for his playing days to be over. At least for the short term, he needs to get help, and he needs to be consistent with treatment, because that's the other thing. Imagine, again, I'm talking about guys who make bad decisions, impulsive decisions, because every thought is the greatest idea they've ever had. It's not a large jump for those folks to say, I don't need this medicine anymore. I don't need to see my therapist anymore. That happens a lot too. And then what you end up with is exacerbated symptoms. It just starts to spiral.
It doesn't really matter how long he was off his meds.
It does in terms of the episode's severity and length, because that differs by individual too. I've known individuals who can be manic for a 24-hour or less period. I've known people who, when their manic episodes hit, it's 5 days of constant. And sometimes the medicine helps with those things, and sometimes it doesn't. I have no idea about his case. I do know this: if he started to feel the throes of one, again, manic episodes, you feel great. Every decision's genius. Everything you do is the best decision you've ever made. It's not a big jump for someone experiencing that to say, I feel great, I don't need this medicine anymore. It happens frequently. It happens frequently. And not all medicines are effective. I think that kind of goes without saying in terms of general human behavior. If this guy said, you know what, I feel fantastic, the season's over, I'm relaxing at home, I can take a break from my medicine, it's not a big jump to say a couple days later he has serious problems. It's not. It's not. Now, to be fair, I'm not a clinician. I don't know this guy. I'm not diagnosing him. I'm just telling you my experience working directly with individuals who have had manic episodes. It's very challenging. And then what happens afterwards is you come down. The regret is overwhelming. Then
you realize what you did.
Well, or you put yourself in a situation where you have no relief. You know, you took that plane ticket to Hawaii. You have no way back. What the hell am I going to do? What the hell am I going to do? I can't call anybody. If I call somebody, they're going to know what I did. I'm going to end up in trouble. That kind of mentality happens with it too. You know, it's very, very sad. And sometimes people do like, yeah, I went out this, but they always know there's consequences. The realization that consequences are coming into the picture comes late. And that's where it can be very difficult for them. Or the episode spirals to a point where the consequences never come, and they end up sleeping on a beach in Hawaii for 4 years in the same shirt and pants before somebody finally says you need to get some help. It's very troubling. It's very troubling. So I feel very bad for this guy that he has this, but at the same time, there's no excuse for what he did, and right. I feel way worse for his partner. It's not easy to live and deal with people with emotional and mental issues. It really isn't. And that comes from a guy with an anxiety disorder. My wife is a saint. Let's just put it that way. You know, 2 o'clock in the morning, I get up because I heard a car horn outside, and I'm convinced the house is on fire. It must have been one of the smoke alarms. That's what we deal with. We all deal with. But folks who have manic episodes, it can be very severe and it can be very sudden. It's just bad. It's just really bad. So hopefully this guy gets some help and gets his life back on track. Yeah. You can recover from this. It's not the end of the world, but it requires a lot of work and it requires a persistent effort. That's the problem with this. This is not like a flu where you take medicine until you feel better and you can stop taking a medicine, or an infection. You take the antibiotic until the medicine runs out and you're fine. Sometimes these issues, they require a lifetime of work. And it's not always medicine. It's not always counseling. It's sometimes a combination of both or one or the other. But it's not something you just cure by taking a pill for 3 weeks and then you feel better and you can stop. So Anyway, before I get into an entire thing about the cycle of relapse and recovery, you know what? We're out of time.
Sad.
I babbled way too much tonight. I think it was good to talk about these things, though. I feel better.
It was good. It was good. You know, next week we'll talk about if Jared Goff stays a Ram. So
well, that's if I'm here next week. I don't know. I might have bought a share of GameStop this week, and I might be retiring.
Fucking GameStop, man! God damn it!
Can we tell that story really quick before?
Go ahead. Yeah, we got time.
So in March of last year, right when the pandemic hit, obviously the stock market took a nosedive because of all the stuff with the pandemic. And I've always been interested in investing, but I've never really done it. But with stocks that I was interested in going from like $45 a share to $10 a share, I decided to put a couple bucks into the market. I signed up with one of those money market apps. Robinhood is the one I chose.
Mm-hmm.
And because its reviews were really good and it was bonded and all that fun stuff. But their big gimmick was when you sign up for an account, you get one free piece of a random stock. And the random stock they gave me was GameStop.
God damn.
It was worth $3.51.
In April, it was $2.
Yep, $3.51. It went down in April.
Yep.
And then it rebounded in May up to $5. And I said, you know what? God damn it, sell it. I'll take my $1.50. and I take my $5 and I sold it.
It was free. Yep.
It was free. It cost me nothing, and it's one of those. It's a site that doesn't charge you per trade.
Yep.
I took my $5. I think I took my $5 and put it into another half a share of Norwegian Cruise Lines or something like that. And which is also doing pretty well. And today it closed at $320.
Yeah.
So that free piece of stock would have been worth $320 today. And yeah.
Yeah, I was like I told you before, I was looking at it in April. I was like, wow, it's $2. People are going to be home. There's no reason why GameStop should not flourish during a pandemic because everyone's home and bored. And I didn't buy any, and I am very mad at myself.
Well, it didn't flourish at first because if you remember, they were all over the news in a negative way because they were one of the stores that said we're an essential service, we're staying open.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not defending them. They treat their employees like crap, but
yeah, and there's also it's considered. Many people say it's not a great place to work, but initially stock investors were like, I don't know about this. You're desperate to stay open during a pandemic. There might be something wrong. But now here we are a full year later. Or almost a full year later, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap! Everybody can retire on that. So I wish I kept my one.
Crazy bananas.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to final thoughts. Craig, what do you got for me this week?
Final thoughts. I just want to say that I'm impressed. We made it the entire season without canceling the season. Really.
Yeah. And while we had to reschedule games, we didn't miss any. We eventually made up every game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm actually pretty impressed. I hope the NFL would, because let's face it, folks, COVID is not going to go away.
No,
this year.
It's not.
It's going to be a thing next year. Hopefully, not as extreme. And I hope the NFL just takes what they learned from this season and grows from that, because I think they kind of did screw up in a couple spots. So hopefully, we can get through a season without having to, quarantine a whole team.
Yep. And my final thought is we have a week off between now and the Super Bowl. It's usually a week of a lot of media. That's going to change because of COVID. But I'm gonna say this now, everybody, strap in for the off season. I think there's going to be a QB carousel that's going to make last year look tame. I don't know why I think it. I think it's just because we're hearing so many people are unhappy where they are.
John Matthew Stafford is leaving, so
Stafford's going to be a QB on the move. Cam Newton's going to be a QB on the move. There are teams that want QBs and want to bring in veterans. I think this is going to be, and I think it's not going to be limited just to QBs. I expect a robust offseason of movement in the NFL, and if that's the case, then get ready. This is going to be hot stove level activity.
Exactly.
And it'll give us something to talk about. So thank you for listening to us. If you have an opportunity, please leave us a review wherever you listen to us on Podbeam or Player FM or Apple, wherever you grab us. Stitcher. think we're still on Spotify. Who knows? Definitely leave us a review wherever you listen to us. If you'd like to interact with us, we are at FignutsDFS on Twitter. We're also available via email, fignutsdfs@gmail.com. We are on Facebook with the Football Fignuts Podcast. We will be back next week for our Super Bowl Spectacular. Maybe we can try to talk one of our friends into joining us. I don't know. We'll see what we can do to make that happen. Lately, schedules have been a challenge for us to get that to make that happen. But I would like to get somebody else on here to give us some fresh ideas, because Craig and I are usually of the same mind on a lot of these things. But like I said, we will be back next week. Until then, please stay safe out there, folks. Craig is right. This thing ain't over, but we can make it be over by being safe. Until we talk to you again, my name is Britt.
I'm Craig.
And we are the Football Fignuts Podcast.
Hi, Deb.